He looks to throw, looking deep downfield. He's got a receiver open. It is complete. That is Stevens for a touchdown.
The Bulldog Radio Network proudly presents the Coach Gray Show on 102.7 FM, Kearney's hometown radio station. And now, here are the hosts of the show, Mike Davis, Jim Dickerson, and Coach Josh Gray.
And welcome to the Coach Gray Show. And here's the deal. Mike's off today, and you can tell because the studio audience didn't care. I mean, not one of them clapped. It's too late now, guys. The moment's passed. I understand. I get it. So, anyway, yeah, Mike's off today, so welcome to the Coach Gray Show. And, as usual, our guest today is, let me look that up, Coach Gray.
How we doing?
It's good to see you today.
Good to see you as well.
So, couple of things. Number one, obviously we have a game tomorrow, which is good.
Yes, sir.
Because we won last week, and we'll talk about that game here in a minute. But let's talk about the game tomorrow for people who are interested, because we've had a lot of people that have asked about this. Winnetonka, correct me if this is wrong, their field or stadium's under construction or something like that. So the game is actually over at North Kansas City. There we go. Yeah.
My bad.
Somebody didn't turn their phone off, but you know what that makes me do? Check mine. So the game's over at North Kansas City. Do you know what the rules are as far as getting in? Is it changed? Because now we're in a different county.
Right. It's still the same to each.
Or wait a minute. We're not in a different county.
Yeah.
Are we? We're in Clay, aren't we?
Yeah, it's still Clay.
Yeah, still Clay.
Yeah.
So what are the rules over there?
It's the same thing. Each player gets 2 tickets, just like we've had the whole season. As far as that, or two players to any participant in the game.
And so, so it'll be.
So it's basically the
kind
same.
Of the same thing as over here.
Yeah, it's all the same as it's been. So it's kind of the same atmosphere.
Except we'll be on the visiting side.
We'll be on the visiting side. That's correct. But that stadium, Winnetonka's building a new stadium at their high school, and but they've played all their home games, for a number of years over at North Kansas City, and obviously it's a very compact stadium, but it's got a lot of history, and it's a pretty cool place to play at. So it'll be good. It'll be good.
I'm looking forward to it,
yeah.
And we will be there. As of right now, everything changes with the Rona, but as of right now, we're scheduled to be there. We'll do the pregame at 6:40, and there it is, game time. And that's, for the TV viewers, there it is. For the radio viewers, there's a graphic, and it's a really beautiful graphic. It's got Breedlove kicking one of his 93-yard field goals. Anyway, pregame starts at 6:40, and the game time starts at 7 o'clock, and we'll bring it to you live on 102.7 FM or 1027kearneymo.com. Let's talk a little bit about last week. We played Excelsior Springs. We were able to advance. Let's just start with the beginning of the game. Coming out of the game, got to admit, a little nervous right here. That was me. They had a really unusual... that offensive scheme and the way the quarterback was surrounded, it almost, Mike brought it up during the game, it almost looked like a victory formation type thing. They're so tight in there, picking up who had the ball, and I'm not even sure they called that in the huddle. It looked like a last-second decision. Had you seen that? Did you know that was coming?
Yeah, they run the option, and they are foot-to-foot splits, as you saw last week. They've got when they run that, they've got either sometimes 2 tight ends, sometimes 1, and they've that wing off of that, and then they've got a fullback / running back in the backfield as well, and that's what they run their option game out of. And that, with those tight alignments with the offensive line, that obviously doesn't present any gaps to fit as well as like you normally would fit in a traditional formation with. Whether that's 18-inch splits or a foot split or 2-foot splits, whatever it is, which, typically a lot of option teams do have a lot tighter splits. So, that first drive that they had, when you're playing the option, everybody's got a job, right? And you can't deviate from that. And we've talked about game speed before on the show about replicating that and replicating replicating that offense, replicating the option offense in practice. It takes a little bit for the scout guys, for everybody to kind of get a feel for that. And, I think our guys did a great job in preparation, but to replicate that game speed of, reading the dive, the quarterback keeping it and making sure we're scraping and fitting like we need to. That first drive, they obviously had a couple big runs and punched it in. And then, after that, we kind of settled down a little bit, kind of regrouped, and they made a couple little tweaks. And, we had some stops when we needed to. We kind of bent a little bit, but didn't break after that initial drive, and had some key plays and some key stops throughout the game to kind of hold them to that 7 points.
Yeah, they scored, and we talked about that in the opening drive. They went right down, and then, with 7:51 left to go in the first, they scored. But they never scored again. So that was actually pretty impressive. And I noticed, so their quarterback, Chance Moreland, he's kind of a big guy, and it looked like he had the ability to pass. He did it later in the game. Was it, and you may not know, was it more of a they weren't confident in their passing game, or they were less confident in your secondary?
Typically with an option team, if you watched any of back when Nebraska was running the option and Oklahoma's, and they were doing all that you spend so much time and a lot of time on the run game, on your mesh, on the whole the read part of the option that typically schools that run the option don't throw the ball a whole lot. I think over their last however many games that the couple games that we got on, and they didn't throw the ball a whole lot unless they got down, and that was kind of what happened in our case, where they needed to try and get a quick touchdown and resorted to throwing the football, which they typically don't do throughout a game. Maybe 4 times a game, 3 times a game they typically pass. So once we got them into that, our secondary needed to wake up a little bit. It's like, because they caught us a couple times, and that's what the option game does, is it will kind of lull your secondary asleep a little bit, and then they get you on an option pass, the play action, a little rollout, and at the end of the game that I think everybody knew they were going to be throwing the ball or trying to throw the ball, and with some of their formations, our guys just kind of had to dust off the cobwebs and, hey, here we go.
Yeah, so there were a couple of things with that. So one was it looked like Moreland, he had the ability to throw. There were a couple of times where you're right, the secondary was maybe a step behind, and if the pass had been accurate, that would have been a bad thing. But so the pass being off, do you think that's a lot of what you're talking about? They get so hung up in the run game that the rhythm isn't there with their receivers, and they just don't have. So, for example, when Minert and Acosta are throwing to the receivers, they do it so often, they start to build that rhythm. Excelsior didn't seem to ever really get any of that. The passes were just a little ahead or a little behind the receiver.
Yeah, I can't speak to how much they work on throwing it, but I know that Coach Fabian does a heck of a job over there, and whether that's the timing, that I don't know. I think that's gonna be for me it'd be a portion of your practice of working on those same things, but
it because it doesn't it forces you into trouble if you now need to move the ball, and we talked about that during the broadcast. Down towards when we got to the fourth quarter, they needed to move the ball quicker, and they couldn't, and that really puts you in a pickle when you've only got one way to go, especially if your run game doesn't work.
Right, and that's what the option game. Yeah. That's what the option does. I mean, if it's working and it's running and you're clicking, it's good. But again, it takes to run it. That it takes time away from other things that you may not obviously have all the time to work on, and it's usually not a part of their game plan. Typically when you're running the option, you're running the option with some variances like they did, where they catch you off guard, or they catch you peeking in the backfield and not doing your piece of the puzzle, and that's where they kind of get you on some. It can get a big play on you.
So defensively, once the first drive was over, who would you say really did a good job stepping up to make sure I could just see you guys go over to the sideline. You're like, all right, that's enough of this. So,
Yeah, that's about right.
Who kind of, after you did the video or you looked at the stuff, who would you say stepped up and said, okay, no, we're done with that?
Yeah, Trenton Vaughn had a pretty good game. Our Mike linebacker, he stepped up a lot and kind of rallied the troops a little bit. Cade Dunlap had a good game as well down there in the D line, and I think for them it was, all right, here's where you're at. That's the beauty of it. They're able to come to the sideline and watch the film from that we've got, and all right, do you see what you're doing? You're getting upfield as opposed to squeezing, or you're not scraping like you need to. You're not using your hands to get to the quarterback. If he's running the ball or whatever, and when you see that, you're like, oh yeah. Do you see what you're doing? I'm like, yeah, didn't squeeze. I didn't, So that's a huge asset and a great teaching tool on the sideline to be able to utilize, so you can show them what they're doing, because what they feel, that's going to get it. Maybe, what they feel may not be exactly what they're doing, and then when you see it, you're like, oh, okay, well, I've got to do this. I got to do that.
And that's for those of you who haven't been at the stadium lately, which would probably be a lot of you. And we'll leave that alone. Down on the field where they've got the screens where the guys are actually watching like what happened just now, which needless to say, when I was in high school, we didn't have. I mean, we were lucky if they had the print. Remember when they used to print out the thing? But we if they
Purple
printed
ink.
that out, well, first of all, ours were black and white. And what were those called with the dots? What was the printer with the dots on it? Dot matrix.
Dot matrix.
So we'd get some dot matrix thing. You couldn't even tell what was what. The play was like from 9 quarters ago. We were lucky to get one of that game. We were like, well, wait, this is last year. And so, but what kind of advantage is it for you guys down on the sideline to have those big screen TVs where you can break down play? I mean, you're looking at video and you can move it. We certainly couldn't move it back and forth like you guys can. What kind of advantage does that do from a teaching standpoint?
Well, that's pretty huge. We've had the system that we use links with iPads, and I mean, literally as soon as the play happens, within 10 seconds, it should be, almost instant, where you get that instant feedback. And as a coach, you can see that on the sideline and see where, okay, it's maybe not the scheme, we're not doing our job, or hey, we got to change, make a little change in what we're doing. And having that tool has been very nice. And there's tons of schools that use that now, and it's an important piece that the game has evolved to that, and just the now information and being able to utilize that has been great for our kids to see and learn, instantly what they're doing and what they're seeing, or a new formation, or, defensive or offensively, you're looking at a front and maybe they're doing this, and all right, here's where you got to block, little subtle changes that they do throughout the game that you have to make some adjustments with.
And when you go on the road, who's in charge of the TV?
We've got some stuff delegated out we do a good job.
That's pretty important, because if you break the TV,
that guy, the sideline Sky Coach, it's called, is the system we use, and they do it's dispersed pretty good. It's like a well-oiled machine in the operations and setting up, and everybody works pretty good together.
Do you have a backup in case someone drops it?
Backup TV?
Yeah.
No, but that's a great idea. You want to sponsor us to get another TV?
Sure.
Maybe we could get another TV from.
We're on it.
Oh, wait a minute. I hear the music.
Well, we got to go
Sounds
to
like a great
commercial. What a good time for that. Anyway, you're listening to the Coach Gray Show. When we come back, let's talk a little offense. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Say thank you to these local underwriters who support KPGZ.
Whether you're a large or small business, or just want internet at your home, Casey Coyote is here to help with all your internet needs. We pride ourselves on being a redundant, resilient, and reliable network to provide you with the best internet available. You can give Casey Coyote a call and talk to one of our local, friendly customer service representatives to see if you pre-qualify for our service at your home or business. Casey Coyote at 816-866-3038.
Injuries can happen anywhere, playing sports or playing with your kids or grandkids.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mark Strathland with Kearney Family Chiropractic Center, and I've been practicing chiropractic health in Kearney for over 22 years. When you come to see me, I identify what's wrong and determine if I can help you. If I can, I create your personalized plan for relief.
When you have pain, you can make an appointment by calling 816-628-6738. Kearney Family Chiropractic Center. Heal yourself.
Legendary Lawn Care. That's right. Legendary is your one-stop lawn equipment center. They've got over 40 years of experience with technicians who service all makes and models of lawn equipment. 4853 Southeast Highway PP in Holt. 816-320-3878. And don't forget to look for the special coupon on 1027carneymo.com/coupons. Let the friendly and knowledgeable staff at Legendary Lawn Care find the right legendary service for your needs.
Friday Night Sports. When athletes compete, they give it their all. At Liberty Hospital Sports Medicine, we're staying open Friday nights after the lights to treat the bumps and bruises that are part of the game. At Liberty Hospital Sports Medicine, we'll have physicians available to evaluate and treat right on the spot. So after the lights, remember Liberty Hospital Sports Medicine every Friday night from 9 to 11 p.m.
And welcome back to the Coach Gray Show for those of you joining us on 102.7 FM and for those of you joining us on Facebook Live or KPGZ TV, welcome back. We're with Coach Gray, and we're going to talk a little bit about the upcoming game against the Winnetonka Griffins here in a minute, but let's talk a little bit more about what happened last week when we beat the Excelsior Springs Tigers. First time we played them in, 5 years, I think is what we said.
Yeah, it's been a while.
And so let's talk offense a little bit. You were without some people because of, we'll say, various reasons. And but let's talk a little bit. KJ Smith, he really stepped up.
He did. He's really kind of worked himself into a great position there, and that's his second time that he's been a full-time and back there full-time. Him and Jake Lowry got some time as well. But KJ, he's a pretty special runner. He does a good job of bursting through the hole and seeing it and vision. And as I always tell the kids, that he keeps his pistons moving. His legs keep it churning, and he keeps it going. And does a good job of seeing it and knowing what to do. Yeah.
Well, and
he's a hard runner.
Yeah, he had one run for 52 yards. It was with 124 left to go in the third quarter. Had a huge hole, so great job on the offensive line. And that actually became our Kearney Chamber play of the game. But they're going to hand off up the middle. That's going to be KJ Smith, and he breaks through the middle. He's got open running room to 20, 10, touchdown. Touchdown, KJ Smith on a 52-yard run up the middle. Beautiful play, KJ Smith.
Very well done up front by the Kearney Bulldogs. The blocks were all there. It was a straight up the middle run, and KJ Smith knocked over a couple of guys and had no trouble getting the lead on anybody even close to him before he crossed that goal line. Beautiful job, beautiful play. Well executed by the Kearney Bulldog offense, and we love seeing them take the 19-7 lead here in the third quarter.
Now, not to detract from KJ, but did you hear the fan base?
Oh, yeah.
And that's at 20% capacity or something like that? Yeah. So good job on that.
A lot of cowbell.
Yeah, cowbell. People yell. It's kind of funny, though, when the play's over, it's like the stadium empty. You hear nothing because you don't have that normal
talk and
all that stuff going on. So you're, and then it's over. But good job by KJ on that. And how about that line for opening up the hole up the middle?
They've really started meshing well. And I know I say that we hadn't played 2 weeks prior, but they've really meshed well. I think we got a lot of them back, had a short week with them, and kudos to them and stepping back in, on a Wednesday and getting things dialed in, ready to go for a Friday game. And they've really started to understand, and not that they didn't understand before, but just really play well together. And because it's like a big, you got 5 dudes, 6 dudes, if you're counting the tight end, and they all got to be in harmony together. They all got to move together, very, very similar to, some sort of dance or what. It's all got to be synchronized. I know I took that to another level as I looked at your face when that came out of my mouth. But it's very true. They've got to be able to work together, and they've all got to be synchronized in what they do as they go through the play. And, not to say that we had some hiccups, but we're headed in the direction that we want to.
No, it was neat to watch because you could tell when the game started, it was just a little different to get back to game speed, real game, not playing against guys that are, right. And everything was just a touch out of sync, but it didn't take long. And you could tell everybody was like, oh yeah, I remember how we do this. And, they just fired it up and went from there. And so, the first two, like the first passes, were just a little bit off, but it seemed to really kind of, everybody started to connect. You talked a little bit about it before, and I guess the word's out. Why won't anybody kick off to you guys like a normal kickoff? These little dribblers. And I got to be honest, from where I sat, 500 feet away in the Alps of the press box, it didn't seem to be working. Because they'd kick it, and then up guy would take it. Right. And I guess they didn't run it all the way back for a touchdown, so it worked in that. But great field possession, no matter how you guys do it.
Yeah, we've been pretty fortunate. Obviously, the guys that we have back there do a great job, and you kind of need to game plan against them. If you're going to kick to them, you better have a good cover team, and that's a testament to those, to Luke and to Joe Marshall. Back there, that they see them as a threat like that. But if you kick it short, we feel pretty confident in those guys being able to handle the ball and still get a pretty productive return put together.
Yeah, didn't Lowry pick it up a few times? Lowry, is that right? And then he gets
Tim
out
Check's back there. KJ's back. And
they end up at the 45 or the 50.
They put us in pretty good
gate.
field position.
So do the guys back there, Luke, and that get? Come on, man!
I think so.
I know I do. I'm like, would you kick the ball?
Yeah, they're pretty special.
But I understand. You're frustrated. I get it. I know why you're not doing it. I understand.
Yep.
So, no, I think that's it obviously doesn't help their yardage stat at the end of the game, but still, it's kind of
puts us in a good position.
It's all about the team.
That's right.
So
especially at this point in time.
Yeah, exactly. So another thing, and let's talk about our player of the game. This week, our Stables player of the week was Braxton Breedlove, and there he is again. Look at that form. You don't see form like that every day. Can you see it? Yep. Oh, I'm sorry. I get yelled at every week for this. For those of you on the radio, there's a beautiful picture of Breedlove with beautiful form coming up to kick the ball. But he came through with a 40-yard field goal, which at the high school level, that's pretty good. And from where I was sitting, could have made 50.
He could have made it a little further. Yeah. He's been kicking pretty good, and if he's listening, hopefully it doesn't go to his head. But I think the one thing with him is, and we have a couple kickers like that they're not only a offensive player or a defensive player, but they're a specialist where they've got a niche and are very solid and very good kickers. And he's got a strong leg, very accurate, and does a good job.
Well, in those kicks,
he kicks probably, to say every day, not every day, because you don't want your kicker kicking long kicks every day, but short kicks. But he works on. I mean, those guys do a good job of preparation and practice. And sometimes I like to deem myself as the assistant kick coach, and I try to put them in some poor situations where they're at. You ask them where they like to kick from, and I'll put it on the opposite side and in a really bad spot. Because inevitably you're going to get into a
you
situation.
Don't get to choose every time.
You don't get to choose. So I ask them where they like to, and I put it where they don't. And
so I lost where I was going there for a minute, and I don't have Mike to bail me out. His kicks look really good. At the high school level, it's not uncommon to see some, wingless ducks going up there. They're just all out of control. His look really, really good all the way through. But there was I think it was an extra point in the first quarter.
Right.
That it barely, we were like, hey.
Yeah.
Was that a bad, we couldn't tell. Was it a snap, a hold, or did he just?
I think sometimes you can, when you're kicking, just like anything else, but with kicking, everything's got to be synced.
Right. It's timing.
It's all timing.
Yeah.
And you got foot placement, your plant foot, your follow through, where your eyes, everything has got to be so on point, to do it. And, sometimes it was good. It was good.
I'm not going to lie. He made it.
Yeah.
but
and he there's things that it becomes a habit of doing it right. And then, sometimes the timing piece, there's a lot that goes into one kick for, whether it's 1 point or 3 points, there's a lot that goes into that. Just like any play, but it even gets magnified more when you're talking about eyes on you, eyes on, that one particular play. Everybody knows what's going to happen. So everything's got to be timed out perfect.
Well, that's a good question, because we've talked about this before, but it really, with him, and we had the same thing last year, that the kicking game was strong, which sometimes gets overlooked, but points are valuable at any given time. But I've noticed it through the year. A lot of teams don't have the luxury that we do of having a kicker. So, the extra point, we kind of, I would never say this publicly, but I'm going to, but the coach won't. We take the extra point kind of for granted because we just know we have a good kicker. And, the thing that happened last week, and he still made it, but that's an anomaly. That normally doesn't happen. But there's other teams at the high school level, and we've seen them a lot, where either they won't kick at all, they just won't because they can't, or it's such an adventure, you don't know what's going to happen. So how much has the game changed over time where the kicking game is so much more important now because it used to be overlooked in the past?
And it has. It's evolved, I think, when you're talking about, and I think back to when I played, or when you played.
Well,
the game is so much
difference there.
Yeah, I suppose
the turn of the century for me. It's not funny.
Yeah.
Did you have a leather helmet?
I did not slap the leather. I wasn't slapping the leather. No, I had a regular helmet. There might have been a small face mask, but the game has changed so much. I think just the way it's played, how it's evolved, the offenses have evolved. The defenses have evolved, and the kicking game has become such a huge part of the game because those points end up, it could be, some of the games you watch on Saturdays, I look in the paper on Sunday and you're like, dang, it was 45 to 56. Whatever. There's such a high, and it comes down to the kicker either kicking a game winning field goal, or all those points and I know this is going to sound kind of, every point matters obviously, just like every inch, and those inches and those points are so valuable regardless if it's a extra point or because there's a lot of high powered offenses out there. And watching, I think I caught the tail end of one of the MAC games last night that was on ESPN, and those games are always back and forth and high scoring. It always seems like it comes down to a field goal to win it. And I think one of the games I was watching did. So
yeah.
So,
well, you see that all,
it's become such a huge part of the game, with defenses being able to, you get into a situation where you get into, now field goal position. Typically before you may try to punt it out of bounds, try to pin them down. And now you got guys that are able to kick a 40, 50-yard field goal really with ease at a lot of times. And, so it's evolved the game, I think, and it opens it up.
Yeah, you bring up an interesting point because of how much the game's changed. And I mean, if you go back to my time before TV, but football started predominantly as a running game. It was all about the run. Kicking, I'm not even sure why they had the goalpost out there. It was like an afterthought. Some guy goes, "Oh, you know what? It'd be kind of cool." But so now, I mean, for those of you who watch professional football or even college football, toward the end of the game, they'll put out the target line for a field goal because that's what the game's going to come down to. And then they always talk about it, and we've actually done it on some of our games, where you talk about, well, remember the field goal they missed in the third quarter or the second quarter or the first quarter or the extra point, and now it becomes such a huge deal. And then the 2-point conversion can kind of skew that as well. But talk about, the difference in the game. So it went from running to now passing except for Excelsior Springs because they did that option. But passing is such a huge thing. But then you throw in the tight end element.
Right.
That, I guess Tony Gonzalez was probably the one who really fired
he
that
elevated
concept.
It,
yeah. So now everybody does it. And then don't apparently try to dunk the ball through the uprights because that's a penalty now. It didn't used to be, but that's a whole nother. You can go down there and dance for 20 minutes, but
we can't dunk it over the goalpost.
I don't even want to talk about it. I digress. But anyway, so at the high school level, how much has it changed where now maybe you use a tight end where, I don't know, 5 years ago, you may not have.
Right. And the tight end position has, maybe in the past, the tight end has been an extra lineman, right?
Right.
And utilized mainly for blocking. And if he was a lineman and you decided to put an eligible number on him, knowing that maybe you weren't going to throw to him, but has elevated, like you said, a lot from Tony G, a lot from starting that piece. And there was money before then, but I think he elevated that piece. But they're almost like a wide receiver in a smaller lineman body. Not that linemen aren't athletic, but to be able to down block or reach block somebody, but yet do that and then all of a sudden release out on a pass and be effective in a passing game
and catch the ball,
catch the football,
right? Because there's so many guys that there are tight ends from even now. They couldn't catch the ball,
right?
If it were thrown with stickum, they just couldn't do it.
Yeah, and that's been good for us. We've got a sophomore tight end that's doing a great job, and Zach Grace has really kind of been really has learned a lot through the season and continues to get better. And I think down the road, that's definitely being able to have that at your disposal is important. At least for us, it is, and having that ability to either use him as a blocker and be able to use him as a out and running routes.
Yeah, I think
formation because he's like a wide receiver. I mean,
right, and that I think is some of the interesting things in the game. And when we come back, we're going to ask a little questions about strategery. When we come back, you're watching the Coach Gray Show and listening to it. If you're on the radio, 102.7 FM, we'll be back after this.
Corporate underwriters of KPGZ programming include these fine businesses.
Oak Point Assisted Living and Memory Care. What else would you expect? After all, you're home. When I looked into an assisted living facility, I was immediately attracted to Oak Point's amenities. I get 3 delicious meals daily in restaurant-style dining areas and a trained staff on site.
To set up a tour or learn more information, please contact Tara at 816-628-0075 or visit the website at provisionliving.com.
I'm Sean Barber, owner of Stables Local Kitchen and Patio in Kearney. Stables is a Kearney thing. We love to be the place where people get together. Stables features a full menu with a scratch kitchen, offering lunch and dinner options, as well as a weekend breakfast starting at 8 a.m. on Saturday and Sundays. Stables has been a proud member of the Kearney community for almost 20 years. You can check us out online at stables816.com, and Stables is part of the True 816 family. Eat, drink, local.
Scott Accounting and Tax provides our clients with quality accounting, tax preparation, payroll, and business creation services. Small town friendliness, big town expertise. We make it our business to know your business inside and out. You can trust Scott Accounting and Tax to get your taxes done quickly, correctly, and on time. Appointments now accepted by calling 816-352-3320. That's Scott Accounting and Tax at 816-352-3320.
More reliable power means more of what you love. You expect your lights and appliances to turn on at the flip of a switch, and so does Platte Clay Electric Cooperative. That's why Platte Clay is working hard to make power more reliable in the Northland. We exist for one purpose: to empower communities and energize life with safe and reliable energy. To learn more about their plan to reduce outages across the Northland, visit www.pcec.coop/reliability. Platte Clay Electric Cooperative.
Coach Gray Show is on the air.
Laughlin finds an open seam up the middle. 10, 5, touchdown. Touchdown, Garrett Laughlin on a 42-yard run.
Jim Dickerson and Mike Davis take you inside Kearney Bulldog football. The ways in the house of strategy, the honest assessment of skills, the lessons learned.
Corbin Bevan caught the ball in the air in full stride and ran it straight into the end zone untouched.
Go inside your favorite team every week on the Coach Gray Show, Thursdays at noon on 102.7 Kearney's hometown radio station.
And welcome back to the Coach Gray Show on 102.7 FM KPGZ, and also for those of you joining us on KPGZ TV and Facebook Live and wherever else you watch the program all around the world. Oh, the MyTuner Radio app for those people joining us there. Don't forget, tomorrow's game is on 102.7 FM, and the pregame starts at 6:40. The game time is 7 o'clock, and our plan is to be there. But as I've mentioned before, everything changes by the minute. For those of you who recall, we were supposed to have a game 3 weeks ago or something, and then they called us at 10 in the morning and said, nope, don't worry about it. So I'm still having a tough time with that, but I'll be all right. We were talking a little bit of strategery before we went to break. Talk about, I don't think, there's some people who watch, here's a funny thing. My mom, who's 80, my mom, who's older than I am, almost got in trouble there, started watching football all of a sudden. I don't know why, but, you know, I was kind of, it's kind of interesting because there's things in the game that, because we've watched it and followed it and done it for so long, you take for, you just, to you, it's common knowledge. One of the things that I think people lose track of is the amount of work that these players have to put into to understand where they're supposed to be, what the play is and everything. I mean, it's easy to sit there and go, come on, catch the ball. But the player had to be in the right place. The ball had to go there. The defensive guys had to do this. The offensive line had to do this. How much work do people not sometimes understand goes into every single play in making sure that it all works out the way it is? Because it's easy believe me, I do it too, to sit on my luxurious armchair and yell at a TV, or sometimes in a press box, look down and go, come on, man. But talk about what work goes in. These kids put in a lot of work for every game.
Every game, back when we started, I mean, it's really the start of the preparation. And so typically are you talking about like coaches into the players timing? It's just for one play. I mean, I think the more you do it, and we have a lot of, different formations, and the play may look like you're running up the middle, but it's 2 or 3 different plays per se that may look the same on the sideline or, in the stands or on TV or whatever. But it's a lot, and it's to be an athlete, and I'm going to step away from football, but to be an athlete in general, regardless of what you play or whatever activity you do, it obviously takes a lot of time to get it to where it's perfect, or, perfect meaning that you've given great effort, you're doing what you're supposed to, do. It may not always come out the way you want it, but it takes a lot of time. So regardless of what it is that you're doing, the timing for a football play, I mean, we may run a play during the week, I don't know, say a run play, maybe a total of 20 times at different points in time throughout a practice. It may be out of a different formation, or it may be something, a little tweak, but a lot of it, we try to, keep everything as simple as we can, where we're not, we never want the kids to have to think. We want them to react and to know what they're supposed to do. So keeping things, simple yet effective there's kind of a fine line there, I think. And, but it does, they got film to watch. We send out film to them daily from practice. We send out film, scouting reports to them so that they have, a hard copy, a video copy of what it is that we're installing that week, or what our game plan is that week, so that they can, spend some time, at home watching it on their phone or at a computer or whatever, so that they can, get as much information as possible, so they're as sure as themselves, when it does come time to run that play. And you may only run a certain play once or twice a game, but that 1 or 2 times or 3 times that you run it, you got to be on point, and you got to know the different looks and scenarios. And I'm thinking offensively now, different scenarios that could happen, a different front or a blitz or a slant or a different coverage. You kind of have to know how you're going to react to that once the ball's snapped, so that you effectively do it. And that's reps, and that's knowing what and how to execute a certain play.
Well, and the defense is the same thing in reverse. So they have to walk up to the line, look at what they've got. They don't have time. I mean, I realize they look to the sideline for certain things, but they don't have time to sit there and go, okay, Bob, you're Kevin number 50. Ted, he's not out here. So,
ball snapped and done.
Yeah, you got to know. Well, and that brings up another point. There's so much, it's kind of funny how you don't realize the time element. The minute the first play is over, barring a first down or a penalty or something the clock starts going again. The play clock, you've got to get everything back on. You've got to have the right player package on the field. And there's a whole rhythm for that, for guys coming on, guys going off. You got to make sure that you have the same number that come off, that's where you get in trouble. All that has to work. Then you have to have the right players for the play you're going to run. And some people lose focus of, the packages that have the different players for the logistics that goes into all that. And then the kids have to know that. They have to know, okay, I'm not part of that package. I am part of that package. And you don't want a guy over there, tying a shoe when he's supposed to be part of the play.
Yeah.
Not that's ever happened before.
That happens every now and again. But yeah, that's, and talk about the evolution of the game. I mean, that's part of it, where you have different packages, different guys coming in that may have a different skill set, or what you're trying to do and how you're trying to attack a defense. I think game planning defensively, as a prior defensive coordinator, defensive game plan is a lot more, to me, than an offensive game plan trying to come up with. Because your offense, you run your offense.
Right.
You're either going to come against an odd front, an even front. There's different things that they do out of those, but you have your rules pretty much set offensively.
You're the offense. You get to choose what you're going to do.
And how you're going to attack it.
Right.
Defensively, you got, there's teams that will have 30 formations, 40, and you got to be able to line up and be able to get the defense to line up, effectively run the right coverage, to make the right checks, to call the right blitz or slant or whatever it is that you're doing against that formation, or signal something in to run. There's a lot to it that in preparation, even before the team even shows up, to go through that with them. And our coaches do a great job of, spending time and dissecting and researching and watching film and getting tendencies and doing all the things, that a lot of times get overlooked. It's not, we had a player the other day, it was his first year playing football, and he always watched football, was always at the games. But one comment that he made was, I knew, I didn't realize what it took to be a football player. Right. And all the time and all the work that the kids go through to do just to be able to be ready to go play a football game. Excuse me. To be ready to even go play a football game. And, he's like, man, I'm so glad I'm a part of it and being able to contribute and do this. And that was like, wow, I never really heard that perspective before from a player say that. We know it takes time. We know what it takes to, what it takes to build a championship team and the things that you've got to do and how you prepare. But to have somebody recognize that and say that, and have a player say, man, I was surprised at everything it takes to be a football player and to be on the team. But it was kind of neat. Little story for you.
And no, but that's a lot of people don't, I think they lose the perspective of that, or they don't understand that, because when back when I was that age and playing, our first play I think we had was, can you get open? And the second play was get open. So we had that package going for us, but it's totally different now. And even when you watch even at the high school level, from pros on down, the routes, the complexity of them, who's running what route and all that, and how the different routes play with each other, because you don't want, it's easy to overlook, but you don't want two guys in the same place. Or if you do have two guys in the same place by design, there's a reason for it. You'd clearly, and this used to happen more than you'd think, you'd have your own two guys run into each other. That was my personal favorite. And then the defensive guy's standing there, and here comes the ball. There's a timing element. So
timing's huge.
Yeah, when the quarterback throws the ball, the best plays, the receiver isn't even looking, because that gives the defender doesn't know to turn around. But people don't understand all the complexities that go into that.
Yeah. And watching Dawson and watching Ian throw the routes and to hit the receivers open, a lot of times on a stop route or a comeback route, that's all timing where, like you said, they're not even looking and the ball's in the air, and then as soon as they turn around, there it is, and so it is. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of practice. That piece is a lot of, even before the season starts, of them going out on their own and running routes and getting that timing down and getting comfortable with each other of how fast they are, where do I need to put the ball, and kind of all of that, kind of leads up into the season, and then it's continued.
So with that said, you're going to play a team tomorrow, that we've already played once earlier in the year. It's Winnetonka. We had a 16-0 lead for going into the fourth quarter, maybe it wasn't. Was it in the fourth quarter? And then that kind of fell apart a little bit. What are the thoughts going into this week? I know we talked a little before the show. Some people talk about a revenge game and all that, and it's not really about that. It's just about, we have the ability to win the game. We need to go out and do it.
Right. And that's, I've had some people say and talk about, you got to go, seek revenge on, and it's not about revenge. It's about redemption. Redemption is about us redeeming ourselves and being able to play like we know we can for a full football game. Nothing to take against Winnetonka. They had opportunities. We had some opportunities we didn't capitalize on. They had opportunities that they didn't capitalize on. But we know that we were able to play a better game than what we did, I feel, and what we've talked about. And, it's an opportunity for us to show that we're better. It's an opportunity for us to get on the field and kind of showcase what we're capable of and redeem that, self image of ourselves as a self promotion, if you will. I mean,
Right.
that's kind of the way we approach that. And this week hasn't been a lot of talk about, oh, we're playing Winnetonka again. Oh, we're playing. We got to do this. We got to do that. Now it's we just got to execute, and we got to be ready to go for 4 quarters and be able to finish the game and capitalize on the things that we didn't the first game, and make some key stops like we didn't, and take advantage of some of those situations that we were in that we just didn't. And we talked about yesterday. It's always looking through the windshield and not in the rearview mirror, and that goes both ways. Whether something that good happened before or something bad, it's about going forward right now and making sure that our eyes are forward and not looking back on anything negative or anything, building on the positive things that we've had throughout the season, and continue that. But regardless, going forward, and it's about this Friday and about the team we are now, not the team that we were, and that we're continuing to get better. And I think we've had, not that I would say we've ever had a bad practice, but we've had good week of practice and preparation. We've been pretty crisp. We've been pretty clean. And now it's time for us to go execute like we can, and to do that. And our guys are ready to go. And our focus has been pretty solid for the last couple of weeks in what it is that we want to accomplish and what our goals are ultimately. Yeah.
Is there a level of, personally, when I would go and face a team that I'd already played before, it was kind of a level for me, I don't know if it is, a level of comfort in the fact that, okay, I've seen these guys before. I remember this guy did that and that guy. So it's not totally where you spend the first quarter trying to, feel everything out. Now you're going to be like, okay, we faced these guys before, and I'm sure there'll be twists and all that. But is there a level of confidence or comfort that not overconfidence, like, I did this before, but a level of, okay, I remember this, it helps as you go into tomorrow night?
Sure. That's playing somebody, obviously there's going to be little tweaks here and there that both teams do. And, but I think the familiarity of it can be good as long as your mind's right when you go take the field. You can't go overconfident, like you said. That's the, confidence is great and expectation is great. But the bottom line is you got to execute and you got to do your job. And familiarity, does that make it easier? Yes and no. I think you could look at it 2 ways. It could tell you, well, we've played them before and this was the outcome. Well, that'd be a negative way to look at that.
The positive way would be, though, is
we've been, we were in the game. There's some things that we didn't execute and didn't do like we needed to do. And, we have the opportunity now to kind of redeem ourselves and take care of what we can take care of and control what we can do.
Yeah, the theory would be, the nice thing would be, is you could go back and look and say, instead of watching a game and go, okay, this is what they did against those guys, you can look at this is what they did to us, and this is what I did, and I should have done that. Yep. So it gives you an opportunity to
fix that. Great learning piece, a great learning tool of watching film and having that prior to the game to be able to see, what they did, what we did, and all right, here's where you missed this, or here's, whatever situation it was.
Well, we're looking forward to it tomorrow night out in North Kansas City. It'll be our Kearney Bulldogs against the Winnetonka Griffins. It'll be the second matchup for these two teams. Don't forget, if you don't have tickets, you have to have the pass participant and all that. They've got that going on out there. If you can't be at the game, which I know we'll have probably as many people as we're allowed to have, I'm sure we'll be there. You can join us on 102.7 FM KPGZ. We'll bring you the game live. Pre-game starts at 6:40. Game time at 7 o'clock. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow night. You've been listening to the Coach Gray Show. We'll see you next week.